right. Okay, so please have a seat. Yes. Okay, so can you hear me? Yes? Yes, good. Okay,
but
so
not from the mic.
Not from the mic, or because it's not on.
It's not functioning.
Okay. It's blinking. Okay, so let me just maybe at the start, I think you can hear me anyway.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Because I'm a trainer, so that's why. No problem for me. So my name is Elsie. Yeah, nice to meet you all. I'm a HR professional. At the same time, I'm running my own consulting business, like on advisory, corporate trainings, and also wellness programs. So I run a business both in Hong Kong and also in Japan. So nice to meet you all. So today we're lucky to have like 4 prestige speakers in here. So let me just quickly introduce them one by one, but I'll give them a challenge. Is that the 30 seconds elevator pitch? Okay, yeah. I'm not a very easy moderator anyway. So let's see how it goes. Yes. Okay. So first of all, let me introduce Dr. Joseph Law. Yes, next to me. So Joseph is executive chairman of J Global and also Amazon.com bestseller author of The Chill Panda and a thoughtful leader in technology, investment, well-being, and leadership. So Joseph.
Hi everyone, my name is Joseph Rodrick, and she explained all my titles already, so I don't know what I can say. But I write about well-being and leadership. Apart from that, I'm a tech entrepreneur, so I invest and incubate tech companies. And other than that, in my business background, I've done a lot of IPO and mergers and acquisitions. And I've also co-founded a couple of charities together with Christy. And around 1.5 years ago, we achieved the Guinness World Record for mental health. We got 16,000 people participating in a mental health awareness raising campaign. And that's a bit about what I do.
Excellent. Okay. So next one is Fred. Okay. So Fred Lee, Senior Executive Director at Gobi Partners, GBA, specializing in venture capital, technology, and ESG initiatives.
Hi everyone, this is Fred. Quick numbers of Gobi. We manage 21 funds, 15 offices across Asia. We make investment in over 400 companies. 100 companies are actually in Greater Bay Area, 90% relating to Hong Kong. So personally, I specialize in healthcare, ESG investment, and also university spin-off. And also personally sit in some university panels and also doing some training for the startup in the ecosystem. So happy to know all.
Yeah, thank you, Fred. Next one is Dr. Stephen Loy, founding director of DPI Transitions Asia Ltd, former CEO at Lee Kum Kee, and also an expert in sustainable growth strategies and business transformation.
Thank you. Okay, well, I'm a trained chemist. I have a PhD in chemistry and an MBA. So my career path took me to 3 careers altogether. The first career is with multinationals, companies like ICI, GSK. My second career, I worked for local companies like Lee Kum Kee, was his first non-D family CEO and outsider. My past 15 years have been a consultant, helping organizations with growth and sustainability. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. So last but not least is Yvonne Robson, founder at Song Company Limited, board member at Consulate, and an expert in international business networks and M&A.
Yeah, so not based on my face, but I'm living in Shanghai. So 26 years, I developed some activities. So one is a fiduciary, so we take care of accounting, finance, regulatory, and another one is it's on M&A. So we are used to help Chinese company going outside, also foreign company coming in China. Now, since also we have office in Shanghai, a small one in Hong Kong, one in Osaka, and also one in Paris.
Okay, great. Thank you, Yvonne. So today's topic is about leadership challenges in scaling. Yeah, so I believe that, like in particular, with the outlook of 2025, right? We will be focusing, of course, how to do consolidation, but at the same time to do a lot of scaling. So that's why today's topic is more relevant in focusing on agility, innovation, and also sustainable growth during rapid expansion. So let's get started. At the beginning, we'll have a few questions to our speakers. Hopefully, you get some insights, and then later on, I'll open up the floor for Q&A. Okay? So first of all, let me go to Dr. Stephen. Yes. My question to you is that, so what are the key strategies for maintaining agility and innovation while scaling in the coming years?
Okay, do I have more than 30 seconds?
No, yeah, the floor is yours.
Okay, all right, thank you. Very kind. We talk about agility and we talk about innovation. Both of them have something in common. The commonality between both of them is that they are both driven by market. The market drives innovation, the market also drives organization to become more agile. Let me give you an example. Organizations that are successful, we basically classify them as being quick on their foot. And they're very sensitive to external factors, particularly political factors, economic, more so now, social and also technology influences. This is actually driving, if you like, the market. The market is very sensitive to these external factors. It's actually made more complicated now with VUCA. I'm quite sure you're familiar with the term. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. That's actually driving a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace. So an organization who is actually sensitive to external factors tends to be more successful in being able to gauge what's going on in the market. Why is that the case? Because the market will tell an organization what are the current needs and possibly future needs. We call them implicit needs. It hasn't happened yet, so it's implicit. Why is it so important? Well, I'm a scientist, so I'm going to quote the great scientist called Einstein. Einstein once said, necessity is the mother of all inventions. So all innovation comes from necessity. I used to run a company 30 years ago. I was the chairman of a British company called ICI. I don't know if you heard of ICI, Imperial Chemical. It's gone now, by the way, it's gone under the water. But in those days, they were the largest, one of the largest in the world. And I chaired the region. I had probably about 50,000 patented products in my control. But I could only utilize less than 1% because there's no market for the inventions. There's no market in the inventions, they're useless. Inventions are useless unless you find a market for it. I managed to find probably not quite 1% of applications. Those are the things that actually make commercial sense. When I became a consultant, in my consulting network, we have a client called 3M. Heard of 3M? 3M only had one technology. We call it polymer chemistry. It's actually acrylic. One chemistry, they managed to find 50,000 applications. It became one of the most innovative, most successful companies in the world. What I'm trying to say is innovation comes from needs. So where can you find needs? The needs is everywhere to be found. Let us start by looking at, for example, Black Swan. Do I have time? Can I tell a story? I'm conscious of I keep on looking at me. Thank you. Okay, give me 1 minute, so I'll finish the story.
Yeah.
So if we look at COVID-19 that we all care about, we suffer COVID-19, right? Why? Because in COVID-19 we have lockdown. Because of the lockdown, a lot of businesses shut, like traveling, like airline, like food services, they shut down. But the agile companies who realize there's an opportunity there, you know what they've done? These are the companies who basically started a thing called e-commerce, online business. They grew and grew and grew. The people in delivery, the logistic companies, people like SF, Sunfeng, they boom and boom and boom. Why? Because it's home delivery. It gives people what they need. And if we kind of follow that and say, well, what does e-commerce bring us? The e-commerce brings us online transactions. So people prefer digital transaction. If you have digital transaction, what do you need? Of course, you're going to need things like crypto, you're going to need AI, you're going to need quite a lot of protection. So those areas, they boom. And then when you go into that and say, well, okay, what about social distancing? Yes, social distancing, like education, like offline education, and people working outside. These people need communication, so it brings about a thing called Zoom. So Zoom becomes big because they meet what the people needed in crisis moment. So then we kind of move into political side and say, well, what about others? Yes, what about things like decarbonization, right? Carbon neutral. Carbon neutral is an issue for many industries, but it boomed. It helps an industry called EV boom. It helps many industry in this area, like solar energy, storage, etc. These started to boom. So I can go on, if I'm allowed, I spend all day talking about innovations leading, prompted by market changes. But what is important is, in an organization, we need to build a resilient organization that has a culture of looking at external factors, relating that into market changes, and what are the implicit needs, external needs, and internal needs that we're able to fulfill, and that then leads to innovation. Did I answer the question? So it's a very long answer, sorry.
No worries.
Yeah.
I think you raised a very good point, using technology, and also at the same time to look at the supply and demand, right? Yeah, I think that is absolutely like a spot on. So whilst we are talking about technology, so I'm now putting into the spotlight on Fred. Okay, so what do you think about the roles? Does technology play in overcoming scaling challenges, and how can leaders leverage it?
Okay, I will try to keep the answer short again. Well, I think one very important thing is technology brings transparency. So one very important thing we always look at the companies, whether or not the startup, the ventures, or even the conglomerate using technology to make everything being seen. For example, before I joined venture capital, I actually was the GM of an F&B group with 1,000 staff for 40 stores, around 20 brands. So one key thing is I bring in technology to make everything visible, especially data. So in the past, probably accountant, I'm also an accountant, by the way, at PwC. I used to work as an intern before, a decade ago. It used to be like every management team will get the financial account by 15th of next month, but this is something very old. By using technology, we make things. We see the live data sales by using dashboard. We have the management account with less than 3% discrepancy by every 6th of the next month. And we can project the P&L of the month when we just have half-month business. So this is what technology empowers, which is very important nowadays for the business model. This is also being one of the critical criteria whether or not a VC will make the investment. So this is number one. Second is to break the border. For example, a lot of startups saying, oh, I'm running a CS center in Malaysia. I'm having the team in Shenzhen to do R&D. How do they manage that? One typical example I love it so much. They have a screen in the office with projector, speaker, and microphone. So what is this for? It's actually playing the live scene of the Shenzhen office here. And this is playing the Malaysian office. So as if we are working together as a global team. So in terms of management perspective, you can see whether or not some people being lazy. And for the staff, they feel the pressure. It's so cheap. It's so cheap. You just buy a few $1,000 projector from Taobao, just a few $100 microphone, and you can achieve the management purpose. So this is, I think, this is two key points I always mention with technology bringing us.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so I think that's something we can learn, and we can actually put in the screen also, if you're running globally. So now I go to Yvonne then. Yeah, so how we lead as leaders, okay? So navigate regulatory and also compliance challenges when scaling globally. In particular, we're managing staff, right? So what are your views?
I think the first is to anticipate, because we see so many people, so many companies who don't anticipate. It was easier, let's say, when I start regulatory, accounting, finance, M&A, let's say 15 years ago, you can come to China and have some, let's say, come in as you are and try to make business. Now it's not the case. You need to be prepared, so Europeans, Americans who's coming, but it's the same for Chinese on the other side. So we manage a lot with Chinese to go to Europe, and I can say to you sometimes the things is just coming and we will see how the business going. We see some business opportunities, but they're not prepared. So I think the first thing is anticipations. Always prepare to what will be the regulation on sports, because you have a lot of different, but I can probably expand after, let's say, speak more about that later. But it's unpreparation and be just on let's say the head on a motorcycle and think, okay, business is there, I'm going there, and the things will happen. But now all regulation is tighter and tighter. So if you're not prepared, it can kill your business right away. So I think the main lake of what leaders think to have in mind is when I'm going in another country and I want to scale, I need to be prepared and anticipate what the regulation is.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's great. So actually back to Fred, would you mind sharing a little bit, on that compliance piece, because you are, like your company investing a lot of startups, right? So what are your views on that? When you look into their processes or maybe the way that how they operate business. So any insights on that?
Yeah, a lot of people talk about ESG, the G, governance. It's actually not a slogan to us. It's actually something real. So let me put a real example. 3 co-founders, and they have a huge operating entity in Shenzhen. So one of them will probably carry the Gongzhang, the company chart, into their pocket. It can create a huge liability. He is a director. He has the company chart. He can just sign a contract with like 10 billion liability for the company, and our investment will come to 0. So whether or not they, for example, just this quarter, I set up a corporate governance committee for one of the Series Pre-A company, and the first requirement I put in is I make a board resolution. They need to revamp the company chart using flow. First of all, they need to go through the think who approve it, and the custodian being another shareholders. So something like this. And secondly, when I look to some walkthrough document, I'm sure Cyrus knows a lot, the PwC walkthrough process, right? When I look at the business contract, the first thing I will look at whether or not they have the control sheet. So proposer sign off, head of legal sign off, COO, and then the boss. Because the boss will sign everything. They assume is being reviewed by someone. So this kind of so-called governance compliance, we will avoid away, not only compliance but also the governance level we always look into. And it can kill a company or it can grow a company.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so in terms of the authority, right? So it's very, very critical to make sure that is compliance in place. Okay, thank you. So now we also look into like growing a business. Of course, we have staff. So that's why we need to manage them properly, right? So in particular, COVID times, we talk about well-being. Yeah. So now I turn the mic to Joseph. So what do you reckon that how leaders stay resilient and also effectively manage the risk of burnout while navigating the constant shift in priorities, strategies, and so on and so forth?
I think that's a very interesting question, and I'd like to start off with paraphrasing from a book written Suzanne Wu. I'm sure many of you have heard of the book 孙子兵法. There's a particular line which I really love. It's called, if you want to win 100 battles out of 100 battles, not only do you have to first understand your opponent, but you have to first understand yourself. So there goes the ancient wisdom and ancient saying, know thyself. And another story I'd like to share, the CEO of NVIDIA, now a $3.4 trillion company as of today, Jensen Huang, he shared something very interesting. He was giving a talk to a group of very elite students from Stanford, and he said, my expectation is very, very low, but your expectation as an elite student from Stanford may be very, very high. But unfortunately, if you have high expectation, for example, normally your resilience is very, very low. So it's like a dichotomy, isn't it? How do we strike a balance between, achieving certain goals, meeting all the KPI, but at the same time having a calm mind but detached from the process, detached from the outcome at the same time? So it's a relativity dichotomy, isn't it? So I think it comes to understanding from a well-being perspective, understanding the mind. We talk about the mind all the time, but what is the mind? Is it a value? Is it a vision? Is it who we are? I don't think it's any of those things. Our mind is actually consistent of all our thoughts combined, bundled into one package. Research said we have up to 60,000 thoughts a day. And many of those thoughts, 80% of them are negative. And we have so many emotions that go through our mind every day. So I think many business leaders, leaders from major Fortune 500s, leaders of different countries, they have asked me this question behind closed door. He said, I've come across a lot of ways to meditate, but what is meditation anyway? I think fundamentally, if you talk about meditation, that inherently there is a flaw. Because if you search the internet, there are many, many ways, many methodologies. You don't know where to start, right? You may subscribe to Calm, you may subscribe to Headspace, but you never learn the real process. But nowadays, there is another term called mindfulness. Mindfulness is a term that is clinically proven, used by hospitals, used by clinics all over the world, proven to be effective at reducing stress. So one way is mindfulness. And what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is a way of observing the mind without judgment. So as we said before, there are many, many thoughts, right? 60,000 thoughts a day. Normally, we try to label that as being right or wrong. We try to define it within certain parameters, like Einstein, the law of relativity. But in actuality, you need to look at it from a third-party perspective. So you're emotionally detached from this scenario. Just like in the NVIDIA example, you may have high or low expectation, but at the same time, you're calm, you're effective, and you're having this inner balance when it comes to achieving a goal, for example. So one of the tools may be mindfulness. This one you need to learn, you need to train the mind. The other one is breathing. We breathe every day, maybe 20,000, I don't know how many breaths do we have a day. But we hardly focus or aware of the rate of breathing. For example, just say if I'm stressed at the moment, what would happen to my breathing? My breathing would be rather shallow, so from heat to heat maybe, and it would be very quick, right? Physiology, the breathing is linked to the body and the mind. It affects how you feel. So you'll be more stressful when your breathing is shallow and very, very fast. But if your breathing is deep and long enough, just like a turtle, for example, your mind would be rather calm. So by changing your breathing rate, you can affect your physiology and thus your state of mind. And I've invented a method called ABC meditation, because it's very hard nowadays to combine mindfulness, to combine breathing, to combine visualization and relaxation. ABC meditation, I try to make it simple. Awareness is having this awareness of the internal happenings in your body. Breathing, B for breathing, and C for centering. So you're aligning your thought in the present moment. Because normally our thought we think about excessively over the past, the regret that we have, or the future which is yet to happen. So normally we try to focus on the present moment by focusing on the breathing mindfulnessly.
Okay, so we probably will spend some time later on to practice. I think it's a very good reminder to everyone whilst you are so busy every day, right? So let me turn the mic to Stephen. You are a scientist. Yeah. Yes. So can you share a little bit, a bit of the insights on that? You know, like how also the your advice on how to keep yourself more calm.
I'm looking for the answer to myself right now. I think you need to know. Well, as a business person, we often ask ourselves, what's keeping you up at night?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the question. So, and if you're awakened every night because of unsolved problems and worries, it's not very good for your health. So the first thing to resolve is, where do you find answers to the questions you face, right? Now, one's never able to solve all the problems by oneself. But I do remember when I joined Lee Kum Kee, I thought I went to Lee Kum Kee as an expert. They hired me because I had all those many years of CEO experience in multinational companies. But I went into to Lee Kum Kee, and Mr. Lee Mantai was the third generation owner. It's quite an amazing person. He's never been, well, I think he graduated from primary school, I think that's why I think he just managed that. But saying to me, he said, I believe one thing in life, and that is, people are motivated with a number of things, right? Respect being one of them. But what is more important is, he said something to me, he said, 人才輕易. He said, we never manage all the things, all the good things ourselves, but we need other people. 人才輕言. But he said, there's a very old saying. I think it went back to the Confucius time, and he says, 才聚人散. I'm saying in Cantonese because that's how he says to me. Right? I'm not sure how to translate it. 才聚人散, 財散人聚. That means if you're generous with the people who are contributing to your organization, be generous. Because 錢係要散嘅，錢散咧人就會嚟㗎。The only way you get a lot of talent is being generous, right? But if you, a lot of 老闆, a lot of bosses, it's explained, this 老闆, that 老闆, right? Pointing the names of it. These guys, they're not going to go anywhere. They're going to sleep this night. Why? Because they hold on to their money and no one works for them. So they carry all the worries every day. He said, no point, life is short. What I want you to do, Dr. Louis, you are good at building brands. Can you help me build Lee Kum Kee brand? Now that was 20 years ago when I joined them, right? I spent my years at Lee Kum Kee, helped Lee Kum Kee to build a global brand, okay? And guess what happened? Today, they have a subsidiary company called Rodrick. Infinitus, have you heard of it?
Yes.
Rodrick was a startup when I joined. Okay, I'm not going to tell the secret how it's done, but let me tell you, with all the strategy we put in place, right, the company grew and grew and grew. 5 years ago, the company's revenue, right, I can tell because it's public information now, 300 million, 30 billion? Yeah, 30 billion RMB. Number one in China, okay? Now, guess what? The brand they built was worth, it's actually ranked 46 out of 500 famous brands in China. And the brand itself was worth about 70 billion. So revenue was 30, the brand worth was 70. It's bankable, by the way. And last year when they did audit, it was worth 90 billion. So the business is 30, the brand is 90. And guess what? The 30 billion you need to share with everyone who works for you. You find that, But that 90 billion you don't need to share. It belongs to the family. Put it in the pockets. That's the clever bit about, why you don't go to sleep at night worrying about everything else. Because you scatter it around, you put money away, and then when someone else worrying for you, you just collect the brand worth, and eventually that 90 billion is yours.
Wow.
So
Okay.
Mr. Lee was saying, Dr. Louis, you see that house over there? You like it? You found, that one. You keep working hard. One day, that building will be mine.
Well, I believe that indeed a lot of us are actually quite a loyal customer of Lee Kum Kee, right? So every day when you make your meals, maybe you use some of the products, right? Okay, so let me turn to Yvonne then. So now, so we talk about some challenges and also like pitfalls, right? So what are your views that leaders should avoid? What are those pitfalls? We talk about managing money. We talk about managing mindfulness. So what are your views?
I think, let's say, in terms of pitfalls of leadership doing regularly is also how the way you see the world outside. Because if you go into another country, we discussed about regulatory matters before, but also I see often, for example, people coming from Asia and going to Europe and see Europe as once. But it's not as once. It's different regulatory matters, but also different people. So different way of thinking, of let's say visualizing the world. Their world are totally different. And when you expand your activities in this kind of countries, you have to take it in consideration. So in terms of human way, but in regulatory and compliance also, because in terms of compliance, the compliance we see here, even if it's much more, let's say, worldwide, more and more in the same way, you have also some differences, and the people who put the regulation for governance has different views for their countries, for their people. So when a leader scale his activity, you have to take care of all of these patterns, different patterns of different country. You can see it probably when you come from Hong Kong, going to China, but you have still the same, let's say you have some common grounds on a lot of things. Going to Europe, I see a lot of, for example, I saw a lot of Europeans coming 20 years ago in China and think China is one. You have different culture, you have different languages, different, even if now it's much more standardized, you still have different way of thinking. But it's the same for the Chinese doing on the other side. And it's regularly seen as once. For example, for Europe, the part I know quite well as a French, but the thing is, and because we had helped a lot of Chinese companies going there, it's often seen at once, which is not the case in all these levels. So regulatory one, compliance one, and human resources one.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. So rightfully, you mentioned about customer. Okay, so now I turn the mic to Fred. So how can organizations leverage actually customer feedback during the scanning process to drive improvement? So in particular, when you look at the startup company as well, how they interact with the customers.
Yeah, that's a very important concept. I think I want to bring in two concepts. As a VC investor, actually we are product first. As we invest in the technology, we look into the fundamental science, we look into the founders, we look into what the problem they're tackling in. But another concept is also very important is founder-led growth. That means whether or not the founder go into the front line in the battlefield to really do the BD by themselves and get the customer feedback. In our recent cases, I think the more successful cases one, all the founders go into the front line. They do the sales by themselves at the beginning. They collect the feedback. Some of them even answer the customer complaint from Instagram, from their application, or from email one by one, so that they know the immediate feedback from the client. That's two front. For B2C type startup, of course they need to do that. For B2B type or B2G, B2 government type, they even need to go further. They need to really do the top-down lobbying. They also need to understand the framework. For example, just now we talked about compliance. We also invest in some deep tech compliance tech. So what they do is they need around 6 months to 12 months to do the POC, approved by the risk department, legal department, the frontline department, the CEO office, etc. Probably the founders, 2 person with 1 PA, and then they are facing like 15 to 20% from the client. Like especially like fintech, construction tech, they always face this. So founder-led growth is important so that they can receive the customer feedback from the front line. And the second type is they also need to be really the top guy to manage the company. So most of the successful startup we have invest basically in candidates 全部見過鬼門關. That means they have seen the god of death already. A founder, I think 3 years ago, he need to get married next week, but in the bank account he only had a few hundred Hong Kong dollars. Another one, the world largest real gaming company now, they filed bankruptcy protection in US before, and then they turned around to become a I think $80 million ARR company being profitable now. And they got the Squid Game IP from Netflix now. So all of them can go they have died already, and then they turn around. And those founders are so resilient, and they're so strong. And some of them may be scientists before, some of them may be hardcore game developer before. Now all of them manage to read the dashboard. They build the dashboard by themselves. They do the cash flow forecast by themselves. Some people may say, yeah, I have a CFO who helped me to build the cash flow forecast. Actually, this is bullshit. Because financial language is just a language to managing your company. How can you outsource this task to one? So we don't buy it. So that's why we love those founders who have this kind of hardcore experience.
Right. Okay. So talking about like also once again, managing employee because probably like in startup environment, founders and also they have to manage their staff. So now I turn to Joseph. So what are the best practices for maintaining employee engagement and then morale as well?
By the way, I'm quite inspired what Dr. Steve was sharing with Lee Kum Kee, looking at it from the employee's perspective and how to incentivize them. I think when it comes to developing framework like this, most people they do it outside in. rather than inside out. And they don't do it from a employee's perspective. They think about how they think, how they feel, and what they value. I think I'd like to divide that into 4 different parts, but I'll keep it very short and sweet. I think the first part is, I think it's important for the employer to be able to have the employee understand the vision and the goal of the company. It sounds very, very simple, right? But if this is as big as a Lee Kum Kee, or like a Fortune 500 company, not with tens and thousands of employees, normally it's very, very difficult. It's very, very complex. And I was reading about Eric Schmidt. I'm sure you know who Eric Schmidt is. He was the CEO or chairman of Google. And he said most business, surprisingly, at Google they do a 5-year business plan. Because it's very hard to predict what will happen in the next 5 years, right? The costing, the technology, the customer, all the moving matrices. But most business, they only do a plan for 1 to 2 years. So it doesn't mean that we have to follow that plan exactly, but I think we need to have a vision. We need to aspire to something greater than the product or the service that we have at the moment. So the first is to really communicate. I think first of all, for the management to get clear on what their vision are, what their goals are for the next 12 months or longer term, and really communicate that with their employees. I think that's number 1. The second part, which is, again, I'm learning, drawing inspiration from Dr. Stephen. The second part is, okay, this is the psychological part. Do the employee, do they feel that they're a part of that? If they don't feel that they're a part of that, you may have aspiring goals, right? But they just work a 9-to-5 job, right? It doesn't mean anything to them. The third part, again, drawing an idea from Stephen, is the incentivization part. Okay, just say I'm an employee working for a multinational, a Fortune 500, or a big tech company. How do I feel about the reward system? Because you have to link it with reward, isn't it? The incentive and the reward. Even if you cannot do this in the beginning as a startup, for example, I think from an employee perspective, they must feel that they're developing a career path more than just a 9-to-5 job. So there is a clear plan of progression for them. If they're an analyst at the moment, how can they become a manager or a department head? All the way up to top. So that's number 3. I think number 4, which I touched on earlier, it applies to the leadership, but also applying to the employees as well. You need to give them the knowledge, the tools, skills, and the mindset for them to dealing with, when it comes to scaling up, right? Because it's a rapidly growing environment. They need to be educated with the right mindset, right tool, right knowledge. And I think that is, the company can implement some program, I think on a weekly basis, workshop, give them some access to some sort of app, and make it more systematic so it becomes a habit for them over time.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So that actually comes in very nicely to the last question that I want to ask Stephen. So we talk about goals, right? So what are your advice for us in here to set short-term versus long-term goals in an organization?
Oh, good. That's a classic question. I'd like to respond to Dr. Rodrick just now. I think it's important that business is never a zero-sum game. If you want to win, it has to be win for the employee and win for the employer. Right? The employee are happy because they're rewarded duly and they're being recognized. But the investor, the employer, the owner needs to win as well. This year, Forbes rated Hong Kong richest, right? And I think for Lee Kum Kee, they found Lee Kum Kee's wealth was around $19.1 billion US. So that's a win for the family, and the employees are happy as well. I could think also across the border, when we talk about the Greater Bay Area, Huawei, it's the same thing. So there's a commonality between successful companies. They never look at a business as a zero-sum game, right? So it has to be win for employee and then win for the owner. Your question, I'm trying to avoid actually. It's long-term and short-term. No, actually, no. It's a good question because as a CEO for many, many years, I asked the same question as well. How do you balance short-term from long-term? Instead of me giving you the standard answer, let me quote you a piece of study by McKinsey, right? We all heard of McKinsey, right? Okay. McKinsey did a very long-term study of 2,500 companies around the world, but mainly in the West, actually. They've done some for China as well, but mainly in the West. And what they've discovered was that if you look at an indicator called economic profit, which is the profit you generate from the business operation minus your capital investment, which is quite broad, so it's everything. That is a thing called economic profit for an organization. If you look across the board, 2,500 companies, and you rank them, you'll find that the top 20%, the top 1/5 quartile, at the top 20%, their economic benefit is 30 times more than the average of the remaining 80%. Why? And they went deeper, McKinsey went deeper, and they studied, and they found 3 factors that these 20% companies possess. They all focus on 2 things. One is short-term and long-term. Precisely the point. Excellent question you asked. And what they found? Because what they found was that there's 3 factors. One is endowment. The second thing is sensitivity to the trend. The third thing is what step are you going to take? 3 things. Endowment is about, it's really about your short term. What do you have? In Chinese, we call it 资者，积攒，资值，我普通话不太喜欢，资值应该 I think 资值嘛 I think that's quite a deal. 你有咩本錢啊？你有什麼本錢？你個本錢係咩嚟㗎？Your endowment focus on 3 things. What is your financial status? What do you have? Do you have balance? What's your balance sheet like? Your P&L, your debt, everything else, your financials. Then you look at your physicals. What's your R&D like? What is your productivity? What's your manufacturing? What are all the physical assets you possess? What do they constitute to? And then the human capital, which is the software that drives the hardware, right? Which is the financial and the physical. That is your basic. That you can't change. You've already got it. It's already seeing you. That doesn't determine your 30 times higher growth, or if you like, economic profits. What drives it are additional factors like how sensitive you are to the environment. Just now we talked about the environment that we're operating. We talked about EUCA. We're talking about the factors, the macro environment, from geopolitical to economic, technology disruption, all that, all the way influencing your market. Where are you now in your market sector? In McKinsey term, we call it the sandbox, right? Sandbox in Shanghai. Okay? Are you still going to be here 30 years down the road? Are you still going to be relevant? So we ask ourselves the question, are you future ready? If you're not, then get ready, right? It's all the strategic part of it. So the company spend all the time in strategy, trying to figure out, currently, you owe yourself today to where you are because of your past behavior, your past performance, the past move. You are now where you are, but the future moves. Are you still going to be relevant 20 years down the road, or are you going to be redundant 20 years down the road? Once you determine that, the rest of it is move. What move are you going to take? And the clever companies, those who grow really fast, are able to move a number of things. Like, for example, they are able to articulate resources, the resource allocations, right? All sorts of allocations to ensure that you're relevant 20 years down the road. You may be looking at things like M&A. Come to Fred to say, well, okay, here's the future. What M&A should I pursue? You might be looking at capital, investments, right? You could be looking at all sorts of possible instruments. You could be looking at some sort of technologically driven technology, all right, improvements like productivity and all that. But what's more is you need to build a capable organization that continually gives you that feedback and continue to build. That's long term. Right. Long term is about, are you still going to be around 10 years down the road? If you're not, then don't worry about it, because just worry about today. All right. But you need short term, because no short term, forget about long term, because you don't even survive. So short term is really about survival. Long term is about sustainability and future of your growth.
Yeah.
Does that answer?
Thank you. I like the aspirational part. Yeah, thank you so much. So now open up the floor. Anyone would like to ask our panel some questions? Yes?
scaling, right? In reality, right now we're in a kind of a bad economic situation where descaling is more the topic. What advice do you have for corporates that are on the other side? I don't want to sound negative, but this is the truth that we're in a negative situation. What advice would you give them in a descaling situation?
Anyone? A particular speaker you want to address, or anyone would like to take this challenge?
Whoever wants to take the challenge.
Yeah, I can. Actually, we, as a Finnish analyst, we are kind of cycle. We love the time now because it's cheaper for us to invest. If some fund, if their vintage was 2020 or 2021, whether the IRR or the return will be lower. But for example, like biotechnology, we just invested to gene editing tech in Greater Bay Area and also from Shanghai. So what they do is they do gene and cell therapy foundation technology. They raised a lot of money 2 years ago, but after 2 years we were able to invest at the same price. Even they got the deal approval from FDA and NMPA, which is a huge thing in terms of valuation search. So for us, the chance of winning in this deal will be higher. So as an investor, I think it's a good time. And the second thing is, I think the counter-cycle mentality is still important. To be honest, as a venture capitalist, we feel quite worried about the current situation now. So I explain why. First of all, a lot of people talk about the deglobalization. We are in the wartime in terms of technology and a lot of things, trade war, etc. But in terms of the capital deployment in the technology development, actually we are quite lag behind. So let's say Chinese, let's say family offices or listed company, in global statistics around, they will put around 12% into the asset allocation in the technology investment, by fund investment, direct investment, private equity investment. But actually in China, it's around only 2%. But even worse, for the 12% of the global capital they invest, they will put 80% plus back to their own technology. So that means the US fund will invest 80% back to the US technology. But in China, it's less than 3%. So in long term, maybe too far for us to imagine, but I think in long term still, we need to take the mindset of kind of cycle to do more upfront investment now in order to cope with the future. Let's say DNA technology we just talked about. Actually, the first CRISPR drug already approved. But in terms of the patent portfolio, you can see it's actually owned by a lot of US type firm or US listed co. So let's say if there's an anti-aging drug or a cancer drug already being developed and cancer being curable. But if I tell you it's not being sold to Hong Kong, like ChatGPT, you cannot use in Hong Kong, by the way. So it is I cannot say it's a discrimination, but it's also blamed to the fact that we underinvest in this area. So you can see from our portfolio, we also invest in different kind of industry in order to fight against the war. Like humanoid robotic, we invest a sensor technology. In CGT, cell gene therapy, we invest over 2 technology. And DNA testing from the University of Hong Kong, we also being one of the huge factors. This is actually for preparation for the future. So in the down cycle, I think we can do more.
Can I?
Yes, please.
Yes. I think that's a very, what you're describing, Fred, it's very, very real, very practical. I'd like to share with you an advice I gave one of my clients recently. They're in FMCG business, and China business is stagnating. So they did a 5-year plan. And the 5-year plan says that they will grow the market growth, which is actually what it used to be. But given the gloomy economic situation, not a lot of growth. It's a listed company. So I challenged the team. I said, have you heard about, Chinese government just putting about $6 trillion to stimulate the economy? Yeah, well, what's that got to do with us? Well, we are Chinese, so in Chinese we only go for 4 things. Yixing. Which one do you belong to? If you belong to Yixing, this is what the Chinese government want you to do, boost the economy. You are the front line because you sell products which people have every day, every single day. That's where government wants to stimulate that particular sector. Can you go back and rethink about it? It went back, I tell you what, it's amazing. Because that's what we do. You know, we spend all our money in 4 areas. The Chinese are tackling G, because they have a problem with G, right? They're stimulating that. The money is going into sorting out the debts. These are real money. They're going up from 6 trillion now to 10 trillion. So you ask yourself the questions, do I have a role to contribute towards G? Do I have a role to contribute towards SIG? Do I have a role to contribute towards Gaotong? You know the transportation. They're giving away so much incentive now in that sector. Now, obviously, in real business, you have to gauge and you have to test your competition and all sort of things. But the money's there. This is real money. This is not a U.S. government saying that I pledge 10 trillion. This is Chinese government saying, in my 14th 5-year plan, and coming up to 15, I am going to give you 10 trillions. Those are real money. They are not printed money. Right? So I just have to say that, don't worry. Go for it, but work hard, right? Make sure you understand what the implication of the PEST on your organization, what sort of market change would that be? And do get advice from experts like Fred and Rob, because they are out there talking about return on investment. These are the guys who are sharp on the, at the sharp end, and they could advise whoever you're representing, your clients or your customers. I'd just like to add that, don't worry. China is looking after us. Don't worry.
Thank you. Anyone else on the floor? Yeah. The mic. Yeah.
Hey, Gary. My name is Eddie Corey. I appreciate Gary inviting me today. There's no free lunch. That's why I would like to share a response to Joseph briefly. Actually, long and deep briefing is important. One thing I learned from a professor, Otto Frey. After you breathe in and you put in the oil air in the lung, push it down to empty before you breathe. And then make it, I'm 68 years old today.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing.
Okay.
Well, we need to practice later on. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Nicole, and I'm actually in the financial market business. I have a question to ask, on behalf of my clients. As you guys know, that there are many companies. They're spinning off some new companies as startups, okay, and they like to get fundings like Series A, Series B, so forth. What are the main aspects that these kind of new or semi-new company should shape themselves up to, say, to seek funding, or especially to apply for competitions like Jump Starters, for instance? What do they have to look into?
Okay, yeah, by the way, you have the writing panel on the Jump Starters, so yeah, fundraising is actually quite tricky now. I think number one tips, very quick, skin in the game is a new normal. That's mean the founder, I don't need you to bootstrap, but at least please have incentive alignment with the investor. Don't give yourself like a very high salary by burning the investor money. That's mean the game. We love the founder invest a little bit money together with us, which is a new trend. And secondly, competition, I think you need to be selective. Because I also wrote a LinkedIn article before. Actually, it's like photography exposure. If you have too much light, it's not good. It's too dark, it's not good. Because I think investors are quite a reader. They like to find some deals. They feel exclusive. They feel privileged. So if you are too exposed, that means everyone can get your content, and they don't feel. They don't see the value in themselves. So try to control your exposure. Jump Starter is good. It's a global competition, by the way. So and the cash price is good. And number 3, lucky number, 18 months cash runway. Because investors are not savior, we investor. So we are not filling the gap, or some startup saying, oh, So it's very weird. We closed 10 deals last year. Over 50% of them have over 36 months runway. That means one thing, they are not bad at cash rich. Secondly, they control their financial performance quite well. That maybe the EBITDA level is very even, or it is controllable. They can burn one over. They can burn the scale, or they can scratch it back to maintain the business performance. So I would like to give these 3 tips first.
Okay, yeah, cool. So I think I'm conscious about the time, so I'll leave it some time for everyone to network and have a like a more in-depth chat with our speakers. So let us again give a round of applause to our panel speakers.
Thank you. Before we start our networking session, I would like to invite all our members to the front to take a photo with our speakers and our moderator for today. So if you don't mind, please move up to the front and then we'll take a very quick group photo.
Thank you.